Right. Shabbat shalom, Alan. Shabbat shalom, Linda. Hold on. Let me give you the power to unmute here. Okay.
Sorry you're sick.
Yeah, unfortunately, me and Lou got COVID.
Oh no. How?
Don't There's never any way to be 100% sure. Um, it most logical probably is last Sunday, but you know,
Oh.
hard to know. Can I
Oh,
ask one favor of either or both of you? Do either of you happen to have Shabbat candles anywhere
I
nearby?
do. Right
Oh, you,
here.
that would be great. Linda, would you be comfortable doing the blessing tonight?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. How are you guys? Happy 4th of July.
Okay. Happy 4th of
Happy
July.
4th of
What
July.
what a time to get sick.
Oh, I know. And it was like perfect day, right?
Let's
Perfect.
see if I gotta get a lighter. Oops.
No,
Who's sick? Are you sick or is it the children?
as of right now, it's me that's sick and Lou that's sick.
Oh,
And
oh,
um, Emmett had been sick, so we're not sure whether he is the source or whether he also got it, but we isolated Eva, so we're hoping that, as of now, she's still okay. So, we
Oh,
just,
thank God.
yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, right? You just never know.
you never know. No.
You never know. You
I
never know.
have
So,
them, but I don't know where to put them.
yeah.
One in each ear.
Um,
One in each
each year.
ear. I'll have to put them
They,
on the
they do
table
that, right?
here.
That's a famous thing, right? Putting right,
I
candles
don't
in ears.
know.
No, no, I think
Candles.
it's like an old remedy thing, I think. The ear candle, where you like put wax in and then you pull out all the stuff.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't
Did you
think that
get
will
that?
help.
I don't,
I didn't even get the email. I called Mimi to find out if she was going tonight, and she told me I didn't get the. I
I
wouldn't
mean,
be
that was my
driving.
big worry. We actually we this is Shelley's was correct about this, but we kept Bart on tonight just to be at the temple in case people didn't get the message so that they would
Oh,
they would know. So, it's
yeah.
like one of those things where I wish
Oh my
some
gosh.
degree that we had like a way to send everybody a text message because I feel like that's the more likely way to get people's attention.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I feel like, most people wouldn't necessarily want a random text message coming in from the temple. So I mean, I'm sure that
It's okay. It wouldn't bother me.
no.
But
So I mean, maybe it's one of
bother
those
me.
things we could do with like an opt-in thing.
I think it's a
hmm
good idea.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll talk to Shaq because I mean I know the technology exists. We all get that stuff all the time. So I
Oh,
think what it probably is a question of is permissions and getting phone numbers and stuff. You know,
Oh,
but
that's true too.
you know,
Phone
so
number.
how are you feeling? Are you
Yeah.
feeling
Are you
well, I
feeling
feel
okay to do tonight? I mean,
no, not really, but I'm I I
the
will
show
probably
must go
if
on?
you'll have to forgive me if I'm a little off tune or a little spacey, a little out of it, whatever it might be. But
Well,
uh,
think nothing
whatever.
of.
I appreciate. Look, it's part of the only reason that I know that this is my community would understand completely. And there was a part of me that thought, maybe I'll wake up today and feel okay. Oh, it's Marcia from
Hi,
Vancouver.
Marcia.
Vancouver.
Wow,
From Vancouver.
who goes to
Hey.
Canada for the 4th of July?
What? You're in Vancouver?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Marcia's in
she
Vancouver.
is.
That's actually very cool. There are times where I
Is
miss.
there no service? Am I too early?
No, no, no. I think probably combination of a lot of people maybe who didn't get the email and maybe tried to show up. I also had a sneaking suspicion all along that it being on the 4th of July, that most people were not
Wouldn't
going to
even
come in
come.
person.
I'll be right back.
And it's live streaming also, so I know there probably are people that are watching. Actually, I can.
Okay.
Oh no, there are people. So hello to you people. Um,
Okay.
that's I mean I can quickly check usually and see. Shabbat shalom.
Okay, I didn't get the email, so I'm going to say goodbye to you guys because I'm standing around too much noise.
No, I hear
There's
you,
too many
Marcia. Shabbat
people here, but
shalom.
I'll
Okay.
Have a
send you a
great
Shabbat
day.
shalom.
beautiful picture of Vancouver.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcia. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right. Okay, so I think we're gonna get started before I lose too much steam here. And I'm very, really, always appreciative of just how quickly, both Linda and Ellen, right? If there's ever something that's needed, you jump right in. So I appreciate you, Linda, being willing to light and bless our Shabbat candles
Okay.
tonight. So let me just put you
All right. I don't know where I'm gonna put them. Stick them here, I
Here.
guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll do your best. Don't
Uh,
worry about it.
Okay. So I will light them right now.
Yeah, and for those that are following online, if you're able to follow online, we're on page 120 in our Siddur.
I don't have one.
I know.
You don't have a Siddur? Oh,
Yeah, you know what? You can actually get Mishkan Tefillah on Kindle, which
yeah. You
is
can get it
great.
online. Yeah, you
Well,
Yeah.
can.
because I had the same experience, Ellen, which I thought of everything, and then I realized about a half hour ago, I was like, oh, the one thing I don't have at home because I brought it to work was my copy of Mishkan Tefillah. So I,
Uh,
I ran on.
I have a travel
The
one.
travel one is great. No,
A
no,
little one. It's like a little
I
one. You take it with you.
I have like a bunch of copies, but I brought one of them to work recently, and I can't find the other one. So, but luckily,
Uh,
I remembered I had the Kindle one, so that helps a lot.
okay.
All right, so Linda, whenever
Uh,
you're ready.
okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvato v'tzivanu l'char nikneh shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And Linda, thank you for that.
Good
All
Shabbos,
right,
Linda.
I'm going
Good
to
Shabbos. Yeah.
yeah remove the pin. All right, and I think what I'm going to do now, Linda and Ellen, forgive me, I'm going to mute you guys for now. But if you need
Okay.
anything, you can always put in the chat.
Okay.
And thank you for being here. And we'll turn to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Naria, Naria, letzori, shenu nekad ma'afana betodam. Naria, Naria, letzori, shenu, bizmehirot Naria lo. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena ladonai. And we'll move on to page 131, Shiru Ladonai. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Masru Meyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Masru Meyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Basru Meyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Basru Meyom Leyom, Yeshuato. We'll turn now to page 132 at the very bottom, or Zaru. Or Zaru ala tzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or Zaru ala tzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. And we'll turn now to page 134 at the very top. Zamru ladonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra. בחצוצרות וקול שופר, הריעו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם הימום לו, תבל ויושביה, נהרות עמך וכף יחד, הרים ירננו. לפני אדוני כי בא, לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, ועמים במישרים, Yiram hayamum lo, tebehel veyoshveva, neharot yimchau chaf yachad, harim yiranenu. And we're going to turn now to page 135, Romamu, which is the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. We're now on page 136, the 29th Psalm. Mizmor leDavid. Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai amayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai Mahayim Rabim Adonai Mahayim Rabim Kol Adonai Ba'koach Kol Adonai Behadar Kol Adonai Shover Harazim Vaishaber Adonai et Arzei Halvanon Vayarkidehem kemo egel Levanon ve'Sirion kemo ben Reimim kemo ben Reimim Kol Adonai chotzev lahavot esh Kol Adonai yachil midbar Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot Vayechesof yeharot Uvechalo Kulo merkavod Kulo merkavod Kulo merkavod Adonai lama b'hu yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. We'll turn to Lecha Dodi now on page 138. We'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. And for the final one, if you would like to rise and bow, you certainly could do that. I think seated will probably more likely just turn towards the door closest to you that you walked in just a few moments ago, or wherever you may be. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela 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 Shamor v'zachur b'dibur echad Yishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem u'tiferet ve'litila Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki hi mekor haberacha לראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני העם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Okay. We'll turn now to page 140, Tzadik Katamar, which is where the Hebrew indent's just in the middle of the page. Tzadik Katamar yifrach, Kerez babanon, Yizke shetulim, Bebeit Adonai, Bechatzrot Eloheinu, Yafrichu, Od Yenuvun Beseva, Deshenim Verananim, Yihu Lehagin, Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlatabo. We'll turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divrach irtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon hu v'yomechon, u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, u'bizman kari v'yimeru, amen. Yesh mei rabba mevarach, la'alam li'almei almaya yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yiturman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha brichu, leila min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'halma v'yimeru. Amen. Turn now to the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. I appreciate Ellen and Linda, even though I can't hear you, I can see the lips moving. So it makes all the difference in the world. Don't worry, everybody online is really only seeing me right now, but I can see you, and that responsive part, much appreciated. Okay, we're going to turn now to page 148, and we'll read together in English toward the bottom of the page, if you have the text in front of you. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges their stars and their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil beyom laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamidim l'chaleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravim. Turn now to page 150, and we'll read together in English again if you have the text in front of you on the bottom of the page. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. Please join me on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם למזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, emet. And we'll turn to let's see, page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. And wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. But there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, but there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. As we turn to page 158. Bye bye bim bim bam, yabba bye bye bim bam, yabba bye bye bim bim bam, yabba bye bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabba bye bye bim bam, yai bye ba 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 bye, yabba bye bye bim bam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nor atehilot. Osefele nor atihilot, Osefele yabai bai bim bim bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai bai bim bim bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai ba 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 ba, yabai bai bim bam, yabai ba 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 ba, yabai bai bim bam. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha. Mokam לפני משה מרים זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגדולו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let's see. Let there be love and understanding among us. Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Hashkibenu is on the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'amidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'amidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu u'einu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We'll turn to Vishamru on the top of page 162. Veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם עיני בין היא ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש. Okay, I'm going to invite us now to take an opportunity to offer our silent prayer of tefillah, or Amidah, this evening. If you have the text in front of you, it begins on 164, and then from that point, as always, continues silently. We'll go back to our old Zoom play when we get to this part in the service. So what I will do is I will turn my screen off just for about 3 or 4 minutes or so, and give everybody ample time to pray as they will. And I invite you guys, whatever you feel most comfortable doing, standing, sitting, screen on, screen off, text on the page, meditation, whatever feels most meaningful to you at this point. But as always, we'd like to begin with words together on page 164, and then, as I said, we'll continue silently from there. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel, Yahase Shalom, Yahase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yahase Shalom, Yahase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael. So we'll turn now to page 371 to offer our Misha Berach, our healing prayer for this evening. Unfortunately, I actually don't have any of my usual papers with me for this evening with our list. So I'm certainly going to think of the people that I'm thinking of tonight, and I will give an opportunity for everybody just for maybe a few moments of silent prayer and really to think about, again, those that you are most connected to who you're praying for healing tonight. And also, as we've been continuing to do, continue to pray for those that are still recovering from the war a few weeks ago with Iran and the continuing war in Gaza. And again, to extend our prayers to all those in need of healing. So let's all just take a couple moments for ourselves, and then we'll join together on page 371. Okay, we're now in the middle of page 371. I hope you'll join with me. Misheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And I don't have our prayer for Israel in time of war that we've been saying, so we'll use the prayer in the Mishkan Tefillah, which we have used for many years and is the most commonly used prayer for Israel in Sidurim. Avinu Shabashamayim, we're on page 377. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'go'alo, barech et Medinat Yisrael, reshit tzmichat gulatenu. הגן עליה בעברת חסדך ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה. ותגנם בעצה טובה מלפניך ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחת עולם ליושביה ונאמר Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy to all who dwell there, and together we say, Amen. Okay, well, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Again, Ellen and Linda, and to those that are watching on our live streams. For those that maybe join a little bit later or are a bit confused by the somewhat unusual nature of our service tonight, unfortunately, Lou and myself got COVID this week and both still pretty sick and still testing positive. So decided this was our best route, but and I'm not going to lie, I had real hopes that I was going to have the energy and the mental koach, as they say in Hebrew, the mental strength to prepare a thoughtful sermon, especially this week of all weeks. Many things I might have otherwise said. I was not able to do that, but I don't want to let a Shabbat go by without at least a little bit of teaching, a little bit of Torah, a little bit of learning. So you'll indulge me if I'm a little bit off of my normal, well, perceived qualities, but I will do my best to share something which I think is an important lesson, not just this week, but all weeks. It's really quite important. In this week's Parsha and Parshat Chukat, we have a few different things that happen. One of the most seminal events of it is Miriam dying. And when Miriam dies, the tradition understands that there was a magical well that was created before the creation story begins. There are a number of things that God creates before that. One of which is the Torah. The other of which, of the ones that I can remember, is is the well of Miriam. So it was this sort of magical well that would follow the Israelites throughout the desert whenever they needed water. It was there. And when Miriam dies, that capacity disappears. And so you can imagine that's an immediate crisis in the desert. And so the solution from God's perspective is that God tells Moses to go over to a rock that he designates, to speak to that rock, and out of that rock will come water. And in his, I guess, building frustration with his people, Moses is incensed with their constant complaining. He's sort of losing a bit of his his own koach, right, his own strength, and rather than doing what God says, which is usually what Moses does, right? Moses, more often than not, is going to follow God's instruction. Instead of speaking to the rock as he's told, he hits it. Okay? He lets his anger take over, and he hits the rock, and sure enough, water comes out. But the end result of this is that both he and Aaron, in the end, are told in essence that they're going to die. Right? They're not going to enter the land of Israel. And then in Moses' case, right, it's a pretty big deal. And there are some traditions that say that this is in fact the inflection point, and that by A, not listening to God, and then B, doing one additional thing, according to the rabbis, is that he basically, before he hits the rock, he sort of sarcastically says to the people, should we give you water already? It's the most sort of sarcastic way in which he could go about this, and then smacks the rock. And one of the things that demonstrates is that it's not God that brought the water forward. It was Moses, right? And so taking that sort of that spotlight off of God's miracle is another thing that incenses God. And so there are some traditions that say that these are the sins. This is what ultimately resulted in Moses being told um, that that he's not going to ultimately be their leader all the way through to the very end. And as we know, sadly, poignantly, Moses dies on Har Nevo, on Mount Nebo, overlooking the land of Israel. And while again, every time that a biblical site is mentioned, we're never really sure if the modern day version of it is exactly that spot, but there is in fact a Har Nevo in Jordan, and there is a monastery there, and there is an overlook, and I've been there, and you can truly see basically all the land of Israel from a height, and that in the end is exactly where Moses' life ends, and the tradition again, depending on which rabbi, which commentator you're reading, sort of ties back to this moment as it is, but. There are a few other traditions, one of which I wanted to share, and one of them in particular comes from Maimonides. So Maimonides says that Moses' sin in this case lay in his anger, right? Not necessarily in the act itself, but in the emotion underlying the thing that drove it, right? In his anger, his intemperate words to the people, quote, "Listen to me, you rebels." Shimu na, right, is what he says to them, right? "Listen to me, you rebels," before he gives them the water. Now, to be sure, if it was anyone else, says Maimonides, this would have been considered a minor offense, right? Okay, we lose our cool every once in a while. Our anger bubbles over. It's the kind of thing that is damaging, but it's not the end of the world. It's certainly not, enough of a reason to punish Moses and not allow him to enter the land of Israel and so on. Okay, so Maimonides says, right, and anyone else who would have been considered a minor offense. However, the greater the person, the more exacting are the standards that God sets. Moses was not only a leader, but the supreme role model of the Israelites. And this is the key. Seeing his behavior, the people may have concluded that anger is permissible, or even that God was angry with them, which he was not. Now, I want to focus on that last line, and in particular the first part of it. Right? That whether it's right or it's wrong, when you are a leader, when you are an exemplar, when you are somebody that people look to for guidance, for behavioral standard, for wisdom, for any of the number of things that one would look to a leader for, the responsibility upon the leader, along with all the other things that come with it, right? Power and prestige and a certain amount of even potentially greater position or whatever it might be, that there comes an equal part, if not a greater part, which is the responsibility of it, that there has to be an expectation that your behavior is constantly going to be under a microscope, constantly being looked at, constantly being either adhered to or not. But in the end, right, the attention of the people in this moment on Moses is to look to him in a crisis and to say, what is driving this person at this moment in time? What is going on in Moses' emotions? How is he demonstrating them again in a moment of crisis? And yes, the people are kvetching, and they have been kvetching. Yes, he's already now survived several challenges to his leadership. He's at the end of his rope. All those things are true. And I think in any other human being, we would say that's understandable and forgive the anger and the outburst, as it were. But Maimonides' point here is not to be unfair to Moses, but to be, quite frankly, realistic to Moses and to speak about what can happen even in one instance, in which the leader loses control, in which anger becomes the dominant emotion, and as a result, the people will intuit that if this is the way our leader behaves, then this must be not just acceptable for me to behave in a similar way, but this might actually be the way I should be acting. And I think that that is one of the great challenges of our time. When we look around at leaders of various kinds, what is the emotion driving the behavior? What are the things that are behind the actions, behind even the words, right? What is underlying the position? What is underlying the thing that animates the person in that leadership position? And we see this really, in many different places, but it's a constant battle right now that it seems that a lot of what is driving leadership in the world picture, and especially on the 4th of July, as we think about our country, right? A lot of our country right now is being driven by anger, by fear, and things that are being done in the name of our great country are being driven by those kinds of emotions. And they may be, painted in a certain way to describe it as something different, but if you really pay close attention to it, you can see that the behavior from the top trickles down to the bottom. Like it is pervasive. It takes over. And once that takes root, the danger is the next generation of leadership will just continue the same process. Unfortunately, in the history of humanity, more often than not, leadership, especially at the very tops, right, top echelons of power, is very often driven by the negative emotions. And I think even in Moses' case, right, for all the great things that he did, for all of the incomparable things that he did, Moses was also a person who dealt with a great amount of anger in his life. His life before being a leader, his life early in being a leader, his life at the end being a leader. And I think if, we don't have a real great sense exactly what's going through Moses' mind in this moment, or when God tells him what's going to happen, or at the end of the Torah when he dies, we have to rely a bit on Midrash and maybe even just a little bit of our own intuition. But I do wonder from time to time, as somebody obviously on a miniature scale, right? I am privileged to be a leader of our community for sure. But I think about it a lot. And I think about, especially after last Sunday, right, celebrating, 11 years of being the rabbi here, the times in which my anger has taken over, right, in which, I had an opportunity to handle something differently. And that part of my essence took over. And yes, apologies can be made, tshuva can be done, relationships can be repaired, things can be, brought back into a certain kind of balance, but you never know when in one of those moments a certain message gets across to the people that you're intended to lead, when they see the wrong example. And it's just something that I think, more and more, there is a part of our tradition that holds up Moses as unlike any other human being that's ever lived. And there are repeated phrases that point us in that direction. And much of rabbinic literature, again, classical way of referring to Moshe as Moshe Rabbeinu, which of course is ridiculous because there were certainly no rabbis that long ago, right? But the rabbis attach that attribution to Moshe because he is considered, right, the rabbi of rabbis, as it were, our greatest, teacher. Um, and yet at the same time, right, Moses is also every man, every woman, he is decidedly so. He's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, he's not the wisest, right? He's many different things, but he's a human being. And that anger in this moment gets the best of him, and the repercussions are clear. And again, we don't know for sure exactly what happens here, but I think Maimonides is onto something. And I think that I can understand that perhaps it wasn't a punishment that God put down, but an acknowledgement of the fact that Moses had already done so much and there was still much more to go, and he couldn't be the leader to take the next step with them because there was just too much history, too much too much resentment, too much anger, too much frustration, and that eventually it started to eat him from the inside out. And I worry, as I said, when we let our leaders behave similarly and without questioning it, without challenging it, without expecting more. And I think we, especially as I said, in time of great celebration as this weekend is, as today is, right? Especially our country. I think we have to really ask ourselves deeply, what are the emotions that are driving our behavior now? Okay, what are our leaders saying and doing now? And at least for myself, I can tell you, it scares me. It scares me deep. So I hate to leave on usually you're supposed to leave on what's called an nechemta, some comforting note of some sort. So my comforting note to you is this, that there's one great decision I think that God made for the Jewish people, even in Moshe's case, who was a great leader, is that we don't really have a singular entity, that we are, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh, we are all responsible to each other, which puts, again, the responsibility on us, on each of us, to be active and to question and to ask more of our leaders, including myself, right? Because in the end, that's what we need. We are a people, we are a world that needed leaders, and we need the best of them, and we need them to lead by example and to give us things to emulate and to be proud of. And I certainly think of the leaders in my life who have done exactly that. I hope that I have been that way more often than not in this case. And I hope very much that those who are in power, um, perhaps on this weekend especially, will give some consideration to where anger resides within their judgment. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and I hope that some of that made some kind of sense. But the good thing about recording is, you can always go back and question everything later on. So we're going to turn back to our prayer books now to page 586 as we turn to Aleinu, again, page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. We're now on page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. Okay, please be seated if you're still standing. Now, my deepest apologies to everybody. The one thing that I do not have are Kaddish lists for this week. So I want to make sure that we give an opportunity. If you have anybody that you're saying Kaddish for and you're on the Zoom, you can add it into the chat. I'll be happy to read it out loud. If not, to take a minute and to say out loud the names of your loved ones if you're saying Kaddish at home. And really, again, to take a moment to think of them. And especially, it's hard not to have the list in front of me because every week that we read that list, those are the builders of this community in one form or the other, right? These are the loved ones of the builders of this community in one form or the other. And every one of them matters greatly. And we often read names at this point in the history of the temple that there's nobody left in the temple community, at least, that remember them. So we do that as a community. So I'll have to figure out some way to make a tikkun, a repair for this, but I just want to make sure that everyone who is watching at home knows that you're saying the name of your loved one is the most important thing, right? You holding in your heart the name of your loved ones are the most important things. And so I invite you to do that now, and I'll invite all those that are in mourning to join me on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So the other thing I am lacking is announcements. I will just ask everybody to check your e-blast and things like that. Also, just do me a favor, because Linda, I know you mentioned you didn't get the e-blast earlier, or the thing about it, and then Marcia didn't seem to get it either. So if you're, for any reason, not getting the e-blast, please let us know in the office. Sometimes there's issues with Constant Contact, and the only way we know if you're not getting it is if that happens. Sometimes it goes to spam. There's things we have out of our control, but whatever it might be. So just the one thing to explain is about tomorrow. So we'll have our Shabbat morning service on Zoom. And what I'm going to try to do is to make that service really an hour from 10 to 11. Because Judy Hollander has worked so hard to prepare for our Torah study tomorrow using the Torah Women's Commentary, and she was really looking forward to being able to do it in person, people are still going to come to the temple tomorrow. I hope you will all come to the temple tomorrow for Torah study in person. Absolutely. And so my thought was, if there were those that still wanted to be able to watch the service at home and get to the temple, that we would condense our service a little bit so that it ends by 11, and that way you have, a good hour, which, depending on where you are, Linda, I know that doesn't necessarily give you a ton of time, but, maybe you can put the service on in the car and drive out or whatever it is. Because I really, especially when we have our great lay leaders teaching, I want to make sure that they feel supported and appreciated. But I know that Judy's excited and Leah is excited, and as always, our Torah study using the Torah Women's Commentary is such a great part of our monthly learning. We don't want to interrupt that at all. So in any case, I hope you'll join us again tomorrow on, again, service only on Zoom, but Torah study either in person or on Zoom at the temple tomorrow. Beyond that, just, I want this to be more thoughtful than this, but I don't want to let the service go by without my gratitude again to everybody for last Sunday. Other than the potential source of our COVID, Lou and I had a wonderful time. We really appreciate all the thoughtfulness that went into it. We know that many of you, were watching, were there. Some of you couldn't be there. But just knowing how much work went into it, how much, thoughtful work went into it, we just appreciate it so much. And we're looking forward to many more good years to come, for sure. So with that, I think we'll go right to Kiddush tonight, if that's okay. Let's see. Find it in here. 1 second. Trying to do it from the this iPad is a little bit different, but with some nice things about it. I can appreciate. Okay, we're on page 123. If you have a Kiddush cup handy, I'll try to keep it where it's still visible here in front. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki bahanu v'acharta Yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. There's always a weird sort of nostalgia for some of our Zoom services. I don't know. There was a part of me that came to really enjoy them in some ways. It's a strange kind of experience, but I appreciate everybody's understanding, and we'll hopefully get over this soon and be back to it. Um, oh, thank you, Ellen. That was very sweet. Yeah, no, this is great. Right, this background. It actually works better than any fake background I found. I took a screen capture of one of our services. It's just there's one thing about it that I don't know how it appears to you guys, but on Zoom it may mirror your image, right? It looks strange if it's not mirrored. So if you look at it carefully, at least on my end, everything is flipped, right? It's the opposite. For you guys who might see it normal, yeah, good. That's exactly the way it's intended. So wonders of technology and everything. But anyway, Ellen, Linda, thank you so much. Everybody online, they are on streaming. Thank you so much. Shabbat shalom to everybody, and be careful. Okay, don't get this COVID. It's bad. It's really bad. All right.